In this video, I'll show you how I made this wood worktop for my 5-drawer US General tool cart. This is what I got to start with. It's some pallet wood. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm thinking it's some kind of hardwood. It's not pine, and it doesn't feel soft. I think it's oak. Maybe, I don't know what all's in there. So my idea is to take these pallet wood slats, mill them down and glue them together and make like a cutting board or butcher block style wood top. What I'm gonna do to start with is I'm gonna take and get one straight edge on my planer. Just plane down one straight edge, so that'll give me a starting point. I mean, if you don't have a planer, you can always build a jig for a table saw and use a table saw. I think I should have more than enough now to cover that workbox top. Some of this wood is really warped, so I'm hoping I can get the warps out of it. I mean, they're twisted on the ends. I'm not going to use the whole length of the board, so hopefully when I cut the end of it off, it doesn't stay twisted. So I think my next step is to go to the table saw, and I'm wanting this worktop to be at least an inch thick, so I'll probably cut these all at 1 1/4 inches. And that'll give me some room to plane it down to whatever length or whatever thickness I need. I've never done this before. At this point, it's just an experiment. I mean, some of this wood is really pretty. I don't know what it is. Most of it, I think, is just oak. But I don't know. We'll see what it looks like on the end. I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like when I cut it and stack it together. I'm gonna get my table saw set up here, and we'll start ripping it down to 1 1/4 inch strips, and we'll go from there. Okay, I hope I have enough. I've got, with these clamped together, they're still, the gap is pretty gappy, but I'm sitting a little over 30 inches. The top of that toolbox is 20 3/4. I figure I'm gonna lose about 10 inches by the time I get all these gaps closed up. And I'm gonna send these all through the planer at least one time to clean them up. So yeah, if I lose 10 inches, I'll probably be pretty close to where I need to be. Like I said, I've got another pallet outside. If I have to break it down, I will. But so far, I think I got enough. I'm going to get these over to the miter saw and try to cut all the warps and cracked ends off. I got all the nail holes and split ends cut off of it, a couple of the warped ends. Some of them were warped too far in the middle for me to cut the end of it off to make it work. So I'm just gonna try it with what I've got. So what I'm gonna end up doing is taking and sorting these out by thickness, because you can see this one's thick and this one's pretty thin. I'm gonna sort them out by thickness and I'm gonna run them through the planer. I'm not gonna plane them down to where they're all the same thickness. If I did that, it'd look like a sheet of plywood on its end. I want the random sizes so I can organize it, make it look more like a cutting board or a cutting board top, countertop. All right, I basically sorted them out to 3 different sizes. We've got the thin, the thick, and then the thick with 2 C's. I'm gonna run the thick with 2 C's first and then just work my way down to the thin. After we've ran them all through at least once or twice on each side, I'll set them on the table and see how close the gap closes up on them. This is what I come up with so far. I think it's gonna look pretty good. It's gonna change colors, you know, we put a little oil or something on it. But right now I'm about a 1/4 inch wider than I need to be, which is about right. I'll just trim the 1/4 inch off to square it up anyways. But I don't know, I'll probably rearrange these a little bit just so like these two are almost the same color. Probably rearrange it a little bit more to give it a little bit more color. Then I'll start gluing it up. I don't think it looks too bad compared to what it looked like when I started. So I got them sorted out the way I like. What I'm gonna do now is go ahead and glue it together. I'm gonna end up gluing it together in 2 parts. I'm just gonna split it in half. That way I can still run it through my planer after the 2 parts dry. All right, I got them glued up into 2 sections. I'm gonna let them dry overnight. So I've got them out of the clamps. I'm just gonna clean them up a little bit. I've been using this paint scraper I got at Harbor Freight. As you can see, I've already scraped this side. This side I still need to scrape. This thing, man, you just put it on there. It sounds like nails on a chalkboard, but it'll take off the glue and a layer of the wood too if it's not, you know, smooth like this. I'm gonna get these things scraped down and then we'll send them through the planer a couple of times, see what they look like. Now I got them cleaned up a little bit. I'm gonna run them through the planer a few times. Probably gonna go ahead and plane them down until they're about 1 inch thick, because that's where I want it, around 1 inch. So I'm gonna get these planed down and we'll see what they look like after that. Got it planed down to about 1 inch thick, maybe a little bit less. I like it, it's starting to look really good. So now I need to take and square these 2 pieces off so they'll fit together. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but there's a gap right here, right here, right here, and right here. What I'll do is take these and I'll run these 2 faces across the joiner until they're square and they got a good tight fit. Then I can glue those together and we start cutting this thing to size. But yeah, I think it's gonna look pretty good. The wood's got enough contrasting colors it don't look too plain, I don't think. Got them planed down pretty flat. I went ahead and cut the excess tails, I'd call it, off of the ends of these. I'm still probably 1 inch or more longer than what I need to be. I figured that'll give me enough room to square it up when I need to square it up. But anyways, those fit pretty darn tight now. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and glue this up and let it set overnight. And then tomorrow we'll get it squared up, cut down to size. I got it out of the clamps and I set it up on top there to see what it looks like. Now I think I'm gonna take and run this edge right here across my planer to flatten that out, and that'll give me should give me a square surface to measure off of, and then I'll cut the sides to length of this box. I think the depth of it right now, I'll show you here, it's pretty close. I mean, you can You can see the hinges under there. It's probably only about an 1/8 inch too long right now. By the time I run that through the planer a couple of times, I may get that eighth inch off of it. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, I'm gonna take this thing off. I'm running this face across the planer to get it squared off. So I got the face of it flat. Then I just took my square and drew a line there because that's like my shortest piece right there, and that thing's just barely long enough. So I just kind of went off the edge of that and drew a line there. So I'll cut this with my skill saw. Then I'm gonna clamp this to the lid, and I'll draw my lines on the rest of it to make it square, and then we'll just make it square with the lid. So on this side, I just took a couple finger clamps and I clamped them to the lid, and all I did then was lift it up and I marked it across the bottom of there. That'll get me a square with the lid even if the lid's not square. So I'm gonna get this taken off here and get that side cut. Now that I got it all cut to size, I test fit it, it looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and take a 1/4 inch round over bit on the router and go around the top of it to break that edge. Now all I got left to do is sand it, and I'm not gonna get too crazy about sanding it because, well, I'm gonna use it as a worktop, so it's gonna get beat and banged up. It's not perfect to start with anyways. But I got it all sanded down. What I ended up doing was I sanded it to 120 grit. Then I wet it down to raise the grain. I let it dry. Then I sanded it to 220. So for the finish for this, since it's just gonna get beat up and scratched up anyways, I think I'm just gonna finish it with mineral oil, just like you would a cutting board. In fact, the mineral oil I bought was cutting board oil. But I'm just gonna wipe that on there, just soak it good in that to kind of protect it a little bit. That way if it ever gets too scratched up or beat up, I can just sand it down and pour some more of this on there. I'm just gonna let this soak in and probably put another coat or two on it and let it soak in, and after that we'll mount it to the top of the toolbox and see what it looks like. Now that I got the top done, I'm going to mount it to this lid, and what I got to mount it to this lid with are these 3/4 inch long metal to OSB roofing screws. They got a 1/4 inch head on them. They're only 3/4 inch long. My top's an inch thick, so this shouldn't pierce through the top of the deal. I'm gonna go ahead and paint them black so they don't stick out like a sore thumb. But anyways, let me show you what I've got laid out here. I've actually laid out 1, 2, 3 on each side. That's gonna hold the ends together. And then across here, I'm gonna put these magnets on here, and that's an extra 10 screws there, so that'll hold it there. I don't think I need anything to hold it in the middle. Just holding it around the perimeter should be fine. All right, let me tell you how I laid these magnets out. I wanted to lay them out to where I can hold a group of wrenches here, a group of wrenches there. Then I'll probably put stubbies or something short in this middle. I think it's gonna work out all right. I've already stuck some wrenches to it, just eyeballed it, and see if I liked it or not. What I ended up doing was from the edge of the box to this magnet is 4 3/4, and then between here and here, all these gaps right here are 5 inches. And then I put an inch gap between these two on the end. I'm gonna get all these magnets off here, and I'm gonna drill all these holes, and I'm gonna drill them with a 7/32 drill bit, which is just big enough to fit that screw through there. So I'm gonna get all these holes drilled through here. That way we can clamp the wood on there and screw it down. I just went ahead and put it on there, squared it up, and clamped it down. Tell you what, it's drilling holes in a brand new toolbox is kind of scary, so hopefully it works out. If not, I'll have a toolbox with a bunch of holes in it. But I've got this clamped down where it's kind of square. I'm gonna try to flip it up and put my screws in the edge, and hopefully they'll hold up, and then I can go ahead and put my struts back on. All right, let's flip it up here and see. Hopefully it doesn't move. probably go ahead and put one in this back side right here because the clamps are holding the front. Let's hope this don't split the wood. And get one on this side over here. Get a couple more on the edges. Then I can take those clamps off. I moved my sticker. I think it was gonna look silly under those magnets, so I moved it out of the way of the magnets. It's probably still gonna look silly and I'll end up taking it off completely. Hopefully I measured those right and I can close it and the screw heads don't hit on these edges anywhere. So I'm gonna try that and then go ahead and take these clamps off. I'm just sitting here looking at it, I'm like, man, that thing looks good. I like the way it turned out. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this lid back on top of that other toolbox and get all my magnets mounted on there. And then we'll go ahead and hook the struts back up to it. I got it all mounted up there. Man, I think it looks good. The end grain turned out really cool. This oil, it just really brought the grain out in some of that wood. It's just really pretty. This end grain, that spot's kind of neat looking. I don't know, just really neat looking. It turned out honestly better than I thought it would for just being some old pallet wood. I think the way I mounted the magnets turned out pretty good. My sticker's a little crooked. It's got a couple of bubbles. I would honestly be surprised if it lasts on there very long, but we'll see how that goes. But all in all, I'm pretty pleased with the project. I'm really happy with the way this thing turned out. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. At the end of the day, it's just a worktop and it's made out of pallet wood. So for what it is, I think it looks really good, honestly. I really like the way it looks. Hopefully you like the way it looks. Hopefully you liked the video. And if you did, don't be afraid to hit that like button. Subscribe. I've got a few more plans for this tool cart, a few more modifications to do to it. Then I'll probably be done modifying it for a while anyways. Hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.